You know what? It's genuinely fascinating. Some things just become icons. The iPhone, a pair of Levi's, and acoustic foam pyramids. Stop. Seriously? This packaging-looking material somehow became the universal symbol of a professional studio in the minds of millions. You see it everywhere: how to treat your room videos on YouTube, radio DJ booths, streaming setups, home studios. They even show it in video games. It's that instantly recognizable as an acoustic thing. Ask a random person what the inside of a studio looks like, and they'll say, foam on the walls, cool gear, and a ton of knobs that look important enough to launch something into space. But very few people ever stop and ask what this stuff actually does. So if you're treating a project or bedroom studio, a control room, a podcast booth, or you're just trying to deal with a room that sounds like crap, an acoustic foam is already on your shopping list. Watch this video till the end, then you can decide for yourself whether you actually need it or not. Let's start with the sound itself. Its pitch is measured in hertz, the number of vibrations per second. 100 hertz has a deep thump. It sounds like this. This is 500 hertz, the boxy punch. And 5000 hertz is a piercing sizzle. Our ears evolved to be hypersensitive around 2 to 4 kHz, and if you know why, drop a comment. If not, your EQ probably hurts. The key here is wavelength. The speed of sound is around 343 meters per second, so a 100 Hz wave is 3.43 meters long. A 5000 Hz wave is barely 7 centimeters. This isn't just math, it defines behavior. High frequencies are like lasers, incredibly directional. They shoot straight from your speaker to your ear. Low frequencies are like an expanding balloon. They radiate out in all directions, filling every corner of your room, and the lower the frequency, the less direct it is. This is why you can't tell where a subwoofer is placed. The bass is simply everywhere. Let me show you. See that? The highs are picky, the lows don't care. They hit your walls, your desk, your ceiling with immense energy. Remember this point, it's the cornerstone of everything. We don't need to understand reverb to feel it. As species, we are incredibly good at this. We can instantly judge the size of a room just by a clap or a shout. And we have a deep ingrained preference. We like reverb, especially when it's big and long. A violin needs a concert hall, not a dead living room. Big, expensive studios are built to have gorgeous, natural reverb. But in your bedroom or a small project studio, our goal is usually the opposite: to make it as dead as possible for recording. And here's why. If you record a voice dry, with no room sound, with a dry recorded signal, you can add any space you want later, but you can't magically remove the sound of your bedroom without unpleasant artifacts. So the goal isn't to create a sensory deprivation tank, it's to create a neutral, controlled canvas. So how do you actually do that? You have to slash the reverb time, and you have to do it more or less evenly across the frequency spectrum. The goal is uniform decay. To pull that off, you need the right porous materials. The go-to industry standard workhorse for this is a mineral wool of a specific density. Not all porous materials are equal. Foam and mineral wool, they absorb sound in different ways. Foam mostly works through friction as sound waves wiggle through its open cell structure, but when a sound wave hits a mineral wool panel, the air particles are forced to move through a dense maze of fibers. The motion creates friction and tiny pressure losses, converting sound energy into heat. The thicker the panel and the deeper the air movement, the more energy is lost. The weakened reflections can bounce around the room with enough intensity to build up that diffusion. And even with mineral wool, density matters. Too soft and air passes through too easily. Too dense and the wave reflects instead of entering. By the way, pro tip: if you leave an air gap about the same thickness as the panel itself, or less between the panel and the wall, you can boost its effectiveness for lower frequencies by 1.5 to 2 times. Always do this if your room size allows. But here's an important point. Completely killing your room is a bad move. You don't want an anechoic chamber. They build those for testing gear, not for making music. For a human, being in one is deeply uncomfortable. After a while, it becomes unbearable. That's because as species, we've always heard reflections. Sound bounce off trees, rocks, the ground, walls. Our brain needs that spatial context to make sense of sound. Take that away and you're fighting your own biology. So our job isn't to kill the room, it's to tame it. For a small bedroom studio, a solid target is getting the reverb to drop by about 60 decibels within 50 to 200 milliseconds for the mids and highs. That's the ballpark. Now for the low end, the rules are a bit different. It's acceptable and often natural for them to ring out longer. A decay time around 400 milliseconds on the low end is fine, provided it's smooth and even without nasty resonant spikes. This is due to their longer wavelength. They cause problems in a different way. But here's the catch, we don't really hear low-frequency reverb as a distinct tail, right? So why care? Although that long unruly low-end decay doesn't sound like reverb to us, it creates a muddy, indistinct bass you can't make out. And also it's the primary driver of brutal count filtering, those random frequency peaks and nulls in different spots in your room, where waves stack up or cancel out. So a slightly longer low-end decay is okay. A chaotic one is what ruins your listening experience. Let me exaggerate the reverb so it's super obvious. Check this out. 400 milliseconds of tail. Way too long. Now 200 milliseconds. Still a lot, but tolerable. And finally 50 milliseconds. You get the idea. Here is where the pyramid foam fantasy falls apart. To effectively absorb a sound wave, you need to dig in to a depth of 1/4 of the wavelength. Yeah, there is a whole rabbit hole of boring physics behind why, but forget the why for now. Just remember the magic number, 1/4. Let's do the devastating math. My voice has 100 Hz in it, just like a bass guitar, where that's one of the fundamental frequencies. To even weaken that, I'd need an absorber 86 centimeters thick, over 2.5 feet. That foam you're looking at is 5 centimeters thick, 2 inches. So what frequency can it actually handle? Let's do the quick math. A 5 centimeters wave equals 6,860 Hz. Take 1/4 of that and you get 1,715 Hz. And honestly, that's optimistic, because you only get the full 5 centimeters depth at the very top of those pyramids. Let's listen to what that means. This is the tiny slice of your sound that foam meaningfully absorbs. And this is the vast majority of your voice, your music, the entire foundation that the foam does absolutely nothing to. It all keeps bouncing around your room, creating chaos. Now I can hear the pushback already. But I've seen the studios with foam all over the walls. They record vocals, guitars, and even mix there and everything sounds fine. What are they all idiots and you're the only smart one? Fair question, let me hit you with the 2 very likely scenarios. Scenario 1, and it's the most probable. In some studios, that fancy foam you see on the walls, it's just a faceplate. Behind it, there's a hidden fortress, and I'm talking about a minimum of 30 centimeters, that's a foot, of mineral wool, tucked away out of sight. The foam is literally just interior decorating. The real acoustic work is happening behind the scenes. Not to mention, they almost certainly figured out the best spots in their particular room for both engineer and the speakers to tackle low-frequency issues. Scenario 2. If there isn't a hidden bulkhead of absorption, then they absolutely know what they're doing. They're using that foam strategically as a part of a larger ecosystem. They've already tamed the room with proper bass traps, tuned resonators, resonant membrane absorber panels. And the foam is just there for one specific job, to catch the last bit of high-frequency flutter or sizzle. It's a finishing touch, not the foundation. Okay, let's be real, there is the third scenario. It's a studio built for the vibe, inspired by a music video. Someone saw their favorite rapper in a foam-padded room and thought, that's what a studio looks like, and just replicated the aesthetic, without the engineering. But don't take my word for it. Do this. Go on YouTube and watch 50 tours of major world-class studios, the places where actual hit records are made. Take notes, count how many of them have pyramid foam as their primary treatment. You'll be surprised. Now if you try to mix music in a room like this, you're headed for disaster. Here's why. Your speaker sends a signal to your ear. That takes time. But sound also blasts out in all directions, especially the low end, which explodes outwards like a spear. That energy smacks into your desk, the walls, the ceiling, and then bounces back to your ears with a delay. So what, you might ask? Here's what. SBIR effect, interference, and comp filtering. Don't get scared by the terms, let's just listen. Hear that? That weird, thin, metallic cancellation? Now imagine that's not just two signals, it's hundreds, thousands of reflections from every surface, all hitting your ears at slightly different times. I don't want to spend 3 hours explaining EQ theory, but here's the one-sentence version. By delaying different parts of the frequency spectrum and messing with their phase, you create the effect of a nonlinear phase EQ. In other words, the reflections in your room impose a wild, unpredictable EQ curve on top of everything your speakers play. It's like a ghost engineer is randomly twisting knobs in your mix. This is comp filtering, and here's why it's lethal. Because those reflections arrive at different times. Sound waves add together in some spots, creating resonances, and cancel each other out in others, creating dead zones. You hear everything except what you need to hear. If you don't tame the mids, the low end, and properly treat the space around you, especially the spots of early reflections, behind, above, and to your sides, you create an uncontrollable acoustic hell. And it is crystal clear that a thin sheet of decorative foam does absolutely nothing to stop this. It's like trying to stop a flood with a paper towel. So how are we, the regular folks, supposed to absorb those punishing lower frequencies? Do we need to build a meter-thick wall of mineral wool, or maybe just give up? Here are some practical methods to try. Positioning. It's one of the cheapest methods, but pretty time-consuming. You have to find the exact spot in your specific room where the bass sounds right, where it doesn't wildly boost or cancel out. And as far as I know, such a spot exists in every room. I hunted for mine even before I built the studio or hung a single panel, but you can do it at any stage. Every 10 centimeters matters and can completely change your low end. Thick broadband panels. Minimum 10-15 centimeters of mineral wool or more depending on what your walls are made of, for your first reflection points, corners, and optionally in the ceiling corners. Tuned traps. Helmholtz resonators or membrane traps can be surgical for specific problem frequencies. Tube traps. I've also heard great things about tube bass traps, which almost nobody talks about, and even fewer people actually build and install because they are a pain to build and expensive to buy. A huge room. Well, if your room is 100 square meters with 7-meter ceilings, you could cover it in permanent foam and be kind of okay. It might be overly dead in the high end, but at least nothing should ring, in theory. Don't forget furniture as an additional treatment. A packed bookshelf can act as a crude diffuser, a sofa or a thick armchair is a fantastic broadband absorber, great for taming the mids. And then there are headphones, but I didn't tell you that. Alright, that's the deal. That foam isn't an acoustic solution. It's just the popular shortcut for people who haven't dug into the why yet. Forget the shortcuts, get serious, start with the fundamentals. Thick mineral wool panels in the first reflection points and corners. That's your foundation. Build that, then listen. That's the first moment your room will start telling you the truth. And hey, if you have a friend still convinced by those pyramid walls, maybe send this their way. Let them tell me I'm an idiot in the comments. I'm ready for it. Let's see whose mixes translate better. Next time I'm pulling back the curtain, I'll show you exactly what I built in my own studio, the treatments that work, and the costly mistakes I made that you can hopefully avoid. Until then, trust your ears. See you next time.